Hi everybody, my name is Barry Schwartz and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, January 11th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. First up, there was probably two algorithm updates this past week. One I believe around January 9th and one I believe around January 5th and 6th. Lots of chatter, lots of signals from the various tools that are tracking it. Google has not really commented outside of saying they're constantly really doing updates, which is the normal Google comment. So it's not really a comment. They haven't confirmed it. They haven't done anything. But I do believe there were some algorithm updates that affected a nice number of SEOs and so forth on January 9th and January 6th, which we have two posts about below, which you can definitely get more information from. The knowledge panel had some type of exploit. The truth is the exploit was around since 2016. Aaron Bradley first covered it in 2016, saying this is how you go ahead and hack the knowledge panel. And all you need to do is really, it's pretty simple. I don't know if it still works. It worked yesterday. But basically, it worked, again, for like almost 3 years. And Google, and finally some larger site went ahead and wrote about it. And it got Google to look at it. I don't know if they fixed it yet. But Google, it's basically you can make this query put up any knowledge panel you want. So I could call myself the shortest man alive and also the tallest man alive. There's a way to hack it. All you need to do is basically grab, let me show you. You go to your knowledge panel or anybody's knowledge panel or any knowledge panel at all, and you can make it say anything you want. So if you bring up a knowledge panel, whatever it might be, and it could be really, really bad, obviously, if you think of ways you could use this, you click this button, you grab this URL, you put it into the URL bar, and all you need to do is change after the Q, you put it in the URL bar, and then after the MQ equals, there's the query. You change that query in the URL bar, you put in any query you want, and then it will look like this, whatever you want. You put whatever query you put in here, it would show that knowledge panel right below it. And that's a pretty embarrassing thing for Google, I think, to have for almost 3 years without fixing it. And they knew it. They definitely were aware of it. So it's not something that they weren't aware of. Google's now sending mobile-first indexing notifications in a consolidated fashion, so they can actually show up to 20 URLs in one email, one notification, that those URLs, those sites, were actually moved to the mobile-first indexing. Google paused those notifications about a month ago. Nobody were getting notifications for a while, and now Google re-enabled them by consolidating them. People were actually really upset because they were getting like dozens or hundreds of emails about notifications of sites being moved over, and now Google's batching those notifications into one single email with multiple sites being mentioned as being moved. Google's John Mueller said they will discontinue some old Search Console features and not port all the Google Search Console features from the old version to the new one. One of the examples he gave was the crawl errors section that he said is not really useful. They're probably not going to port that. So definitely take a look at that. Google also said they're working on something around making the link report more consistent. I don't know what more consistent means, but those are two things that John Mueller said around the Google Search Console that should be taken of notice. Again, I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that, but just a heads up. Google does SEO internally. They manage 7,000+ websites, and Sean O'Keefe, a data scientist at Google, wrote on the Google Think with Google blog about how their SEO strategy actually has success. He talked about making small changes and how those small changes often have big impacts. He talked about not being afraid to make changes, embrace change. So if you know a new technology is cool or going to work or it's a new feature that might impress your users, definitely employ it. Don't be afraid to make changes. And consolidate. If you have 5 web pages or 5 websites that all have the same content or near content, make it into one site so you can focus on one. And right after he posted that, and it was like, oh, well, Google's internal SEOs have access to the search quality team or to search engineers. And Danny Sullivan and John Mueller said, no, they do not, he said. They're like any other SEOs. They read the external guidelines and advice. They have no special access to or insight from Google's search team. John Mueller said, I suspect Google's in-house SEOs have a harder time getting answers from random people on Twitter, given our strong push to avoid giving preferential advice. And there's a separation that covers that, et cetera, et cetera. So that's interesting to hear. Again, it's really interesting to see Google's SEO successes. Definitely take a look at that. They posted a lot of detail. Oh, not so much detail, but overall themes. Sorry. Google said even unnatural links deployed on your website by machine learning or AI are treated just like if you did your own. You're responsible, if you did it yourself with your own hand, you're responsible for your own website, Google said. And if you have unnatural links on your website, either because you wrote a bot that drops links on your own website or because you did it intentionally with your own hands, it's the same thing because it's your website, John Mueller said. John Mueller said, oh, it's pretty interesting. You definitely want to take a look at this. He gave really hard SEO advice. Hard SEO advice to hear to a low-quality website. I'm not going to read through it, but basically he said, sometimes it makes sense to take down your website and start fresh. And that's the SEO advice he gave here, and he went on in more detail. Very interesting to see that coming from John. John doesn't usually say it like it is, especially when it comes to giving hard news. Google's rich result test now lets you edit code inline. So all you have to do is click in here when you bring up the rich test results. It turns white. You can make line code changes, and then you can run the test again. It's pretty cool. They launched that this week. Google said, Google said using 404s and temporary sitemaps helps speed up page removal. So let's say your site was hacked and you have thousands of pages on your website that really shouldn't be there. If you 404 all those pages, point a new temporary sitemap with the cache, it's not the cache date, but the last modified date with the date that you added the 404, that might go ahead and get Google to actually crawl those pages faster and notice the 404 faster. Again, nothing really new. We knew that before, but I said it again. Google's has a new-ish type of rich result snippet. It's part of the Q&A markup. I haven't seen it before. I see the Q&A markup where you actually scroll through carousels, top answers, but the asked X years and months ago seems fairly new, and that's part of the Q&A markup. Google, I think, launched a new design for lyrics. It's part of the new enriched, richer type of look. So now if you do a search for any types of lyrics, it would actually add a lyrics tab here and let you see the lyrics as opposed to getting in some type of old interface that was launched in 2014. Google's local listings also keeps testing, or maybe it's rolled out to some people. I don't see it. Your match scores, which basically show you based on if you do a search for a bar, how likely you might like that bar. This bar I might like 99%. This was a 94% match, et cetera, et cetera. Google's trying to be smart about what local listings you might like. Google is rolling out related activities, your related activities card, which basically lets you pick up from your last search or searches. So you basically do a search. If you've done that search before, it's going to say, hey, your related activities. You can expand it. These are sites you visited an hour ago, 5 days ago, related to that search query. And then you can actually go ahead and bookmark those results and add it to a different type of resource. Google talked about that, or we saw tests of that in September, and now Google has officially rolled it out. And finally, Google relaunched the Google Manufacturing Center with new content, analytics, and availability. Google's showing a lot more information in here. Definitely take a look at that. New analytics dashboard for you. And they expanded this to more and more countries. So now it's available from 7 countries to now 24 countries. Hey, Evan, thanks so much for listening to the Search Buzz Video Recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz, and this is search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at SEOroundtable.com over the past week. Today is Friday, January 11th. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Bye.